You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Because it's the Cup, folks, that's it for the 23-24 NHL season. Nick Alberga Jay Rosehill, the Tuesday edition of Leafs Morning Take. What's going on, Rosie?
The Tuesday early morning edition, because we couldn't wait to talk about Lord Stanley.
That was me being selfish. I got a flight in about, 3 hours from now off to Vegas for the NHL draft. But we wanted to squeak in a show for you because obviously, we want to react to the Stanley Cup final. First and foremost, I got to say, Rosie, what a series. I had a chance to cover the majority of it. Wasn't in the building for Game 7. What a series. What a Game 7. I think it lived up to the building here.
Yes, it did. It was pretty entertaining, man. There's a lot of sad hockey fans where I'm from because there's a lot of Oilers fans. And I was on the wagon too, just simply because, the team I care about is not in it. So who am I cheering for out of these two? And I thought the Panthers were the better team. I thought they were going to win the Stanley Cup. I was vocal about that, but the heart and the push and the way the Oilers were able to come together and play this unbelievable style of electric hockey that's not really common because you don't usually put that much faith in, a few guys and rely on them to basically do almost everything and then be able to have the outside guys elevate, have your goalie get hot at the time. Their blue line's pretty thin. To get where they were with what they had was so impressive. And I wanted to see, some unbelievable excitement, some history, some shock, and see some pretty neat things. But now that it hasn't happened, it's sinking in, and that direction is going to change in a hurry back to, the old Oilers mentality of, are these guys going to stay and what will it take and will it ever happen? And back to moping a bit because they're heartbroken.
Well, it's exactly it. It just shows you, man, it is so difficult to win a Stanley Cup. At the end of the day, not many people are going to remember that season for the Oilers. The fact that they were down 3-0 here in the Cup final, came back, and then ultimately dropped Game 7. Again, it just shows you how difficult it is to get the job done. I like the individual storylines. I thought it was cool to see Matthew Tkachuk hoist Lord Stanley, even Roberto Luongo, Paul Maurice. I love hearing Paul Maurice speak, just hearing what he said after, just so much class. Says he wants Winnipeg to be the next franchise, the previous team who gassed him a couple of years back. Those narratives, those stories are really, really cool. And ultimately, only one team can win. I agree with your assessment. I think the right team won. It's just bizarre to me that that's the Florida Panthers team we've seen for the brunt of the last couple of years. Where the hell were they for the last week and a half? And then ultimately they show up in Game 7. And all I could think about was how many times they did that to the Maple Leafs this year and maybe last year in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, where they were suffocating for the second straight game. I thought they did a great job on Connor McDavid last night.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I just didn't think that the Florida Panthers were going to lose that series in any way. But when that comeback started happening, I said, this is neat. This is great. Way to show some heart and some fight. But you won't get to Game 7 back in Florida and beat the Panthers on their home ice in Game 7. You just won't. But I flipped again when the last 3 games, the wins for Edmonton, I was like, what are the Panthers doing? They have abandoned ship. They have lost their system. They don't have a clue who they are. Again, they've lost it all, and they're just getting overwhelmed. And I thought, what is going on? And I was thinking the Oilers had the edge going into Game 7, just based on, how tight those guys would be and how freaking out everyone top to bottom would be, whether they're saying it or not. Just the vibe and the energy of, oh my God, what is happening here is not good going into a one make or break game. But they found it, man. They absolutely smothered them. They were everywhere. They took away time and space like I hadn't seen before. And they gave them nothing, man. They really gave them nothing. A 2-1 win. There was, 2 periods with 1 goal scored. It was just smothering, and they got the job done. The cream rose to the top. And at the end of the day, I just think it kind of shows that you can't put, as close as it was, and it could have gone either way. You look at Connor McDavid out there, and you can't just have one guy trying to do it. I mean, this guy's just at one point he was just taking the puck from a teammate and trying to dangle 3 guys on that shitty ice. And it was like, my God, man, this guy can't beat the entire Florida Panthers by himself. Although it looked like he could for a long time, and he damn near did. As incredibly impressive as that is, I just don't think you can put all the faith in one player, no matter how good he is. 1-2 players, call it what you want. At the end of the day, a really well coached, well structured, specific identity team is going to rise to the top, and
Did,
the Florida Panthers did.
did you know that 15 straight Game 7s dating back to 1950 in the Stanley Cup Final have ended up playing to the under? So that's another under, man. I don't know what it is. I think you're so bang on again with your breakdown. Execution was flawless from Florida. They got some big time goals, whether it be Reinhardt, obviously Carter Verhaeghe, former Leaf, kicks off the scoring. And then they got some massive saves. Again, it just states yet again how important it is, integral it is to get some saves when it matters most. Opportune saves, timely saves. And I thought the shot blocking was huge in the third period. It's not like the Oilers didn't have chances in the third period. They were just a bit off. And I thought Bobrovsky, that was a difference maker for me, is for how poor he was in the first 3 games. Prior to Game 7, he was outstanding in Game 7. That's why the Panthers are Cup champions here.
Yeah, they had sticks in so many lanes. They blocked so many shots. They got their sticks up and all over the sticks and hands of the Edmonton Oilers on their chances. I can't believe that, it was on the stick of McDavid. It was on the stick of Hyman. And Bouchard could have buried it. Leon had several chances from his favorite spot, like whiffed on one, and it wasn't in the cards for them. And I think you got to give hats off to the Florida Panthers for creating that and making that happen and bearing down and doing the right things. And I think how well they're coached and their identity for the last 2 seasons, it just shone through, and they got it done when it mattered. That's all that matters. And it is unfortunate that the Edmonton Oilers don't have anything, like nothing to show for that. Like
Nothing.
you don't get
Yep.
anything to show for that. And that's what hurts so damn much, because one goal, Kulak, I thought, could have blocked that shot. He kind of popped out of the way for the game winner. And it's just kind of like, a guy get on his knee and take that in the chest at any other time. And it's just one little thing. And that's it. The difference between the elation of winning and being historic and them calling this the greatest series of all time and the greatest this and that. And you start talking about McDavid and his numbers and pushing Gretzky and the Conn Smythe, and oh my God. But it's just one little thing, and you get nothing. You're right back to square one. The moral victories, like you said, completely go away. No one remembers. Oh, they just remember the Panthers won. The difference is so drastic, and I think that's what's so goddamn heartbreaking for that group. I would not want to be any of them right now.
Any issue with people slagging Connor McDavid over not coming out to accept the Conn Smythe Trophy?
At first, I was like, if it were me, which a lot of people can laugh at, but if I was in that boat, I thought, step onto the ice, take it, look at your picture, nod, put it back on the dasher, and get the hell out of there, I thought. But then I think about being in that room and what would be happening in that room at that time. Guys are crying, hands in their laps, heads in their laps. No one's saying anything. Maybe someone has said a couple of things throughout, the guys walking around giving these long hugs, and just pure devastation of, I can't believe, for all the hope and thought and the belief that they had, and then it's over and you get nothing. And then he's like, hold on, he's got to step up, and some guy, Connor, you got to come back out. Oh, excuse me, guys, I got to walk back out there. He just goes, no, I'm with this group. No, I'm not. I don't care. I don't fucking care. Do you have any idea how many trophies I've won or how many I'm going to win? I'm not leaving this group right now to go take a picture with fucking Bettman. So I don't have a problem with it. And you could say, oh, my son was wondering why Connor didn't come out and get the thing. This is awful. What a bad role model. Shut up. Tell him, yeah, he's crushed. Maybe he should, maybe he shouldn't, but he's destroyed and he's with his teammates right now. And he doesn't care about himself and the name on the back of his jersey to go get some trophy that says you're the best. He cares about the guys in that team 10 times more than that. And he can't bring himself at the lowest point of his career to come out and accept a personal accolade. You can tell your 6-year-old that. So I at first I was like, oh, I'll go get it, Connor. And then afterwards I'm like, you know what? He doesn't have to.
Hates to lose. I love Shorzy. I'm watching season 3 right now. Hates to lose, bottom line. And I think my takeaway from that, there was no win for Connor McDavid. If he goes out there, people rip on him for going out to accept a personal award. There was no win with regardless of his decision making. But I agree. Like you're in it with your team. You lose as a team as well. And I was A-okay with him not accepting that award again. The first player since 2003, when J.S. Chigara, your former teammate who has guested on this very fine podcast, to win the Conn Smythe Trophy from the losing team, but I think fully qualified for that. I know people were pissed off. Maybe it should have been Bobrovsky. I disagree. Maybe it was Barkov. No, I just think pound for pound, the importance to the team. Connor McDavid literally dragged his team to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. But you're right. Just watching it, from an unbiased lens, obviously no skin in the fight. I thought it was a great Stanley Cup final, but it also shows you the NHL calendar is just wild, man, where today we wake up, we're 3 sleeps away from round 1 of the NHL draft. It's go time for the offseason here, Rosie.
Yeah, it's kind of an aggressive schedule, man. Like, do they even have time to fit in all the guys that are supposed to have the cup for a day in the summer? Like, how are you supposed to? It's just too crammed, man. And I don't know if that means start earlier. Like, what's usually the first week in October is the first game. I don't know if you bumper a week into September. I don't know if that's the answer or not. Then you got to. It's tough, man. You got to fit a lot in, and when you give them the travel break kind of thing by giving them an extra day in the finals, when you got to do that travel, I think it's a bit much. I think it drug on. You got to expect that there is a high chance that the finals goes to Game 7 with 2 premier teams being at the caliber that they're at. This thing could go 7. And I think you got to give yourself the opportunity for a little bit of breathing room in between the draft and free agency. But like you said, it's like a spit away, and it's crammed in there tight. And I don't know, for those Panthers, like, to try to do their celebrations, their training, get the day with the cup and stuff, and then be ready in the fall. It's no wonder why some teams have that Stanley Cup hangover.
Yeah, I was going to say that's exactly why there's a phrase called the Stanley Cup hangover, because it seems to happen a lot. You just have no time to recover from the previous season. I think if you're Edmonton, it just stings that much more because there's no time for recovery, and you came away with no hardware. Absolutely no hardware. So we'll have everything covered for you all week long. Again, I'm headed down to Vegas coming up later on today. The live shows will begin tomorrow. Anthony Stewart's going to host tomorrow's show from Stadium Swim. Rosie will be back in the mix for Thursday and Friday. And looking forward to see what Brad Treliving has cooking here, not only for draft weekend in Vegas, but also free agency. Get ready for the Daily Faceoff Live Free Agency Special coming to you on July 1st, live from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Join Tyler Remchuk, NHL insider Frank Saravalli, as well as former NHLers Carter Hutton and Colby Cohen and friends from all over the league for 3 hours of nonstop action as they dive deep into the madness of free agency. They'll be breaking down every trade, discussing the impact on teams, predicting the future of free agents, and giving you the inside scoop on all the wheeling and dealing happening around the league. Catch all the action live on July 1st from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Time for the Daily Faceoff Live Free Agency Special. You won't want to miss, Rosie. Lots coming up in the next week before we settle off in the summer, my friend.
I know. Now my focus shifts back to the Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
Which feels good because it's instead of frustration and stuff, there's potential light on the horizon. There's excitement. There's reason to think it's going to be different, and they're not going to be the same group with the same problems. Dare I hope that is the case. We will see, but I can't wait to watch and see what Tree can do. And there's already stuff funneling in. Yeah. Deals have already been made, and handshakes and this and that. And I just, with all the BS like reports of, oh, this is happening, and then some other guy, well, the complete polar opposite is actually happening, and then some other guy, well, this is like, guys, stop. Like, no, they haven't announced anything. I have the guys that are literally involved in the stuff probably doesn't know what's going to happen, yet these guys that are not really connected in all that intimate of a way are telling us what just happened. And it's just none of it all can't be true, because it's the polar opposites. They're completely different takes, so it's not all true. So I just wonder, why are these people putting out this stuff that's not definitely true? It's kind of frustrating. I like to sit and watch and wait and say, what the hell happened is going to happen, and then react to what actually happened.
I know it's a weird time to be alive, especially in digital media. Clout and farming for engagement. Everybody wants to be the first as well. I couldn't believe it's been 51 days since the Maple Leaf season ended in Game 7 against the Boston Bruins. At the Leafs Nation 401 here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit the LeafsNation.com. The opening segment brought to you by Greta Bar YYZ. For a good time, find Greta, 590 King Street West. Weekly specials, live sports, over 60-plus arcade games. Let the games begin. Go big. Go to Greta Bar YYZ. So it's safe to say you ordered your Mitch Marner Utah jersey. Is that what you're telling me?
That was a bold one too, hey? Just flat out, just announce it, the deals and everything. It's like, Jesus, man. I don't know. Maybe there's some hint of truth to that, and he's the only one that knows what's going on. But yeah, if you're on Twitter, there was breaking news that Mitch Marner has been dealt to Utah, and it's a big old spread, and everyone's going, what the hell? Because when news like that comes out, you see it from all angles, not just one little rando tweet from some dude. So it's I don't know, man. Again, I'm going to wait and see what happens, but I do hope there is some big splash of news here in the next little while, and it changes the makeup of the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's what I want to see. That's what I'm excited for.
Hey, that guy's verified, so we know he's got sources. But like that one is even better because he's like it's gonna happen sometime next week, and the two sides have agreed on a deal. It's like I think Marner would probably, like, this is just me speculating. I think he probably knows a couple teams that he'd be open to at least having a conversation. I'm not sure Utah is going to be in that list. I know they've changed ownership and changed cities and franchises, but it's still the same players on that roster. Like if you're Marner, you want to put yourself in a good position to obviously get paid, but be in a good position to win a Stanley Cup in this league. And I just don't look at Utah and I'm like, oh, they're going to win in the next year or two. It's not like they're franchise coming in like Seattle or coming in like Vegas, who obviously wins the cup in the first 5 seasons. It's just a different thing. They relocated. It's not expansion. But yeah, that was just a bogus rumor. We debunked it really, really quick here at the Leafs Nation. And we sort of move on. But I think the core focus, Rosie, over the next week will be Mitch Marner. I know it's about the draft. I know it's about free agency, but this seems to be looming over everybody's heads too.
Yeah, it has been for a while. We've been talking about it a lot because it's franchise changing stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about salary cap areas. You're talking about this guy who's poised to make a ton of money for a long time, and you're married to that kind of, and you've been in that position before, and I keep saying, putting a lot of eggs in this one kind of basket, and you've done that already. It hasn't worked. So I'm just wanting to not be married to the same problems that they have been for a long time. That's all it is. That's as simple as it gets for me. And, you even look at, a player that's, twice the player that anyone else out there is in Connor McDavid. He can't get it done without the surrounding pieces around him. He damn near did, but again, falls short when you try to put the whole weight of the season in the Stanley Cup on a couple guys' shoulders to go score all the goals. It just, hockey's never really worked that way. And I think they need to get away from that mentality and build other parts of their roster. Simple as that. And from what I've seen from Mitch in the times of hockey that we just watched, I don't think that he's built for that. I don't think that he has that quite level of intensity in him. And for that reason, from what he's shown me, I'm not being a dick saying that. I don't want to say that. I'd rather say he's as good as McDavid and sign him for 8 years. I'd rather say that, but it's just not what I think. It's not what I've seen. So I'm on the other camp, and it's difficult because Tree Living's got to get something done to make that happen. And there's trade clauses and other teams and caps and signings and extensions, and a lot has to go right. So again, my biggest fear is just that nothing can get done, and it just kind of goes away and nothing happens, and we're left waiting and wanting, and then all of a sudden training camp's coming up. That's my biggest fear, and I think it's quite possible, but I hope that's not the case.
I guess your boy Rob Reinhardt doubled down earlier today, saying Mitch Marner to Utah is very real per a member of the Maple Leafs player personnel staff he just spoke to. Marner's camp also will not confirm nor deny the rumors. That's weird. They denied the rumors yesterday, so I could not disagree with this guy any further. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, one way or another, we're going to find out in the next week and a half. It should be a polarizing debate in this market. If he's not traded by, like, say, July 2 or 3, I think he's coming back. And as I mentioned, I've opened up to the idea of Mitch Marner coming back. I just wouldn't extend him. I would walk him to free agency. I would gladly take that cap space. He would come into the season knowing he's not getting the 8th year on his contract, and c'est la vie. I mean, he has earned that contract regardless if you agree or not. He got that contract. He got the no movement clause. And certainly we'll see what happens over the next week and a half. But that is the latest. By the way, just touching up on Kevin Weeks' report yesterday, Rosie, as well. The deal can't be made official until July 1. But from everybody I talked to, it sounds like Joseph Woll is going to sign a contract extension. One very similar, by the way, to I think his buddy Jake Ottinger, what he did with Dallas a couple years ago in 2022. I think it was a 3-year deal around $4 million per season. So we get the thinking on that one too, as we mentioned yesterday.
Do you call that a bridge deal or not really?
Yeah, well, it's different because he's like 25, right? Like he's at a different stage. I will say I like the idea that it's going to take Woll to like 30 years old and they're buying 2 years of UFA. I think it's initially when we saw it, I think we both agreed. We're like, wow, that's a pretty polarizing number. That's a daunting number. But effectively, the way I read it, they're paying him a bit more now to save maybe a bit more later. Yeah, it's a gamble. It's a risk. You don't know if the guy's going to stay healthy. You don't know if he's going to perform. We all know he has talent. But let's say he has a really, really competitive and strong year, man. He plays 45 games. Next thing you know, he's going to want 5.5, maybe $6 million per season, right? And so I think in the long run, you actually save money if everything goes according to plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a risk and it's a play, right? And
Yeah.
that's what GMs have to do. They can't predict the future, so they have to make their best educated guess. And they're guessing that this Woll guy is going to be the Maple Leafs goalie for a long time. They think that he can elevate his game even higher, and if he can stay healthy, he could be he could be one of the Maple Leafs goalies that go down in history as one of the very, very good ones, maybe one of the great ones. Who knows? But he
Yeah.
has the potential to be very, very good. So you're going to lock, he's not going anywhere. You're not unloading him. Like you're not just, you're keeping him. He's going to be part of your franchise. So you make this play with the thought that down the road a couple of years, you're going to have him for cheaper than you would otherwise and have room to do other things and have the goalie that you've always wanted. So
Yeah.
I get it. I don't think it's bad. And again, with the money's not crazy and insane, and it's not like you're hinging your whole bloody franchise on this one contract or anything like that. So yeah, if you look at it and realize where it takes you and what it does and what it has the potential to do, I think it looks like a smart move, one that makes sense.
Tying up some loose ends as well on Linus Ullmark, who guested on the show last Thursday, I guess. Traded to the Ottawa Senators prior to Game 7. No extension involved in the deal, which obviously we talked about in the interview. I think it's a good deal for both sides, but I would not be shocked if Joonas Korpisalo, who I thought was actually particularly good this year, he had no defense in front of him. Now with a D in Boston, I wouldn't be shocked if this guy just pops off the Swayman-Korpisalo tandem. I don't think there's going to be as much of a drop-off as people think. So Boston retains a first-round pick. They get Kastelik as well as like a bottom 6 guy who I think is going to fit in perfectly there. And they get Korpisalo. So I think a win-win for both sides. Now the objective for Ottawa is to try to find a way to entice Ullmark to stay long-term. But I know some Leafs fans are pissed off, even talking behind the scenes with Linus all last week before we did the interview, after we did the interview. Really had no intentions of waving to go to Toronto. Really wasn't on his list. So I don't think the Leafs were ever involved in this situation.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. You wonder why. No way will I play for the Leafs, but I will go to the Ottawa Senators.
I
It
know.
seems odd.
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, I could see like Nashville or something, like polar different markets and countries and climates and everything. But to go to Ottawa is kind of odd. But I looked through Twitter and a lot of Boston fans are losing their minds, right? And thinking that he got hosed and it's a bad trade and everything. But when you look at it, you're going with Swayman. You respect the hell out of Ullmark and what he's done for you. He just won a Vezina, done lots for you, but Swayman's your new guy. You need some cap space to try to go after some other guys. You want to go let him flourish somewhere, but you can't just give him away. So this Korpisalo, it's a bit of a gamble. He hasn't been good last year. He's kind of the bottom of the league with a lot of numbers. Was he happy there? Was the team around him good? I doubt it. No. And you get him to go in there and back up Swayman, and you give Swayman the reins a little bit more, but he's going to be jumping in there. I think he's certainly got potential to be good. He's been good in the past, and he just wasn't good last year. But, they open up $2 million a year in cap space. They get a first rounder. Who knows what that'll turn into? So I get it to a degree for sure. And again, I don't think you're keeping Ullmark past this year. So it's a 1-year thing. And what do you get in return? I don't think it's as bad as I'm seeing on Twitter. People are just, I think, personally in love with Ullmark and don't want to see him go for, and then they look at who Corpusel, they look at his numbers last year and they think it's insane, but you got to dig through the reeds a little bit and see where the mentality behind making that deal came from. And once you do that, I think it becomes a little bit more clear what Boston was doing there.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny, there's been so much talk behind the scenes. Like we were even seeing yesterday, according to multiple reports, Brett Pesce, who obviously has been with Carolina for a long period of time, likely headed to New Jersey per a couple people on social media who seem to be rather well connected. We all know, you've probably lived it, free agency. It doesn't really start on July 1. It starts prior to that. There's some smoke signals sent out there. Sounds like he's going to sign in New Jersey. Again, nothing has been signed. Nothing can be signed till noon Eastern time on July 1. But that certainly would have been a target of interest for the Maple Leafs. But luckily, there are some other guys out there. They have been linked to Pesce, but that one stings a bit. I still think he would have been a perfect fit for Toronto, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen here, Rosie.
Yeah, I know. Guys are kind of getting picked off, and although it's not official, I think that with where they're coming from and guys that have the reputation opposite to whoever that guy is that's letting the Marner stuff, they don't say stuff unless they know what's going down. And before free agency, you're putting feelers out all over the place. Guys talk, guys have a coffee. Who likes you. Oh, this so-and-so in Ottawa has always liked you and asked about you, and we were close on something 3 years ago before this deal, and he's always had his eye on you. Those talks happen. Agents are working the phones and figuring out what's what, and they run into each other at the All-Star game and then during the playoffs and at the draft, and it happens. And things are set in place right now, and then that's why there's such a flurry of activity opening hour of free agency is now everyone's pulling triggers and filing paperwork. So it's exciting, but guys definitely get picked off, and then it leaves you to wonder, well, what's left? How many people are going to want that? And is that guys, sometimes when guys get picked across and the free agent market starts to thin out, guys' stock goes down. It's like, well, the guys got what they want and you're not up there anymore. And on the other hand, sometimes it's like there's nobody left. Everyone needs X. You're one of them and your stock goes up and there's bidding wars. And all of a sudden guys are like, if I don't do this guy by any means necessary, I'm going to be accused of not doing anything where we didn't improve our team. I didn't do my job. And they get a little bit panicky and overpay for a guy. And that's why, like you say, you look back and some of the biggest regrets and screw ups are July 1 when guys overpay for free agents.
Should mention as well, JC, respect to you for calling me out in the chat. Paul Maurice resigned from the Peg. Nick, he was not gassed. So I appreciate the accountability on this show. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You know my play is today. The Toronto Maple Leafs to win the 2025 Stanley Cup, Rosie.
Nicky, wow. The
positivity today, baby.
And optimism early in the season. I like it. Wow. I'm not there yet, but I like your attitude today, buddy.
You're not there yet. I get it, man. I'm just laughing at what New Jersey is putting forth for Sheldon Keefe here, man. Here's Brett Pesce. Here's Jacob Markstrom. Here's a healthy Dougie Hamilton. Here's Luke Hughes. Here's a healthy Jack Hughes. Must be nice. Be nice.
He's got some stuff to work with, all right. But now that Pesce is gone, who's your front runner on the back end? I firmly believe we need to get a stud defenseman.
Yeah.
I see Tanev.
He's not a stud though. He's a veteran. Like he's a.
I know, but we need that shutdown guy. We need that shut. I would love to get two. I'd like to get Montour to complement Morgan Rielly and allow Rielly to be in the place that I think he needs to be slotted in, not the number one go-to game on your shoulders guy, but very good offensive minded, can move the puck around, power play, blah, 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 but complemented by a guy like Montour and then a guy like Tanev, shutting down, being physical, taking care of your own, really shoring up the actual defense of your defense core. Whether that happens, I don't know. And I do worry a little bit about getting into these bidding wars where you might overpay for a guy who comes to Toronto and isn't the Lord and Savior.
That's my concern, man. I think a lot of teams are going to be in on Tanev, and next thing you know, he's going to get $5.5, $6 million a year. And just simply put, the guy can't play every game, man. He gets dinged a lot. He gets hit in the face a lot. He's a warrior, yes, but he struggles to stay in the lineup. And I want guys who are going to play. I think he's going to be there come postseason time, but you also need to sort of get there. I think there's going to be a lot of changes. But yeah, I think they're going to be in on guys like Matt Roy. I think Zadorov. I think they're going to be in there on him. Montour.
Do you think he's going to get overpaid, Zadorov, after
Dude, I'm
that
telling you
playoff?
right
Like,
now,
he's not a
yeah.
stud. He's
No,
not
I
a
agree. I think a
big
lot of
man.
these guys are overhyped. I think Montour's a legit number 2. I love the way he skates. I thought he was pretty good in game 6 and 7 here for the Florida Panthers, but that's just the reality of the free agent world. There's gonna be one contract at least where you and I look at each other and be like, what the fuck are they thinking? That's just what's gonna happen. It's free agency. If you got a guy in mind, and we know Tree loves Zadorov, we know he loves Tanev, he's gonna find one of these guys. He's gonna pay them what he feels they deserve, and we're gonna have to live with the consequences. Like, find me a GM who every signing, every trade they make that you're happy with. It just doesn't work that way in this league.
And he's not going to pay them what he thinks they deserve. He's going to pay them what he has to get them on the bloody
Exactly.
roster. And that's kind of the kicker. And he could know as well as anybody in the hockey world that, hey, I'm giving this guy $1.5 million too much per year, but I have to. I have to. Or else I'm doing nothing, or else everyone's gone and I'm screwed and I'm going to hear about it for 10 straight months. Can't get into that boat. And I think it's obvious the Leafs need a change in their core. They need a different look. They can't go out there with the same mentality, and they're not going to, thanks to Craig Berube, but you need the personnel to change too. And that's why I think that there's going to be moves made this offseason, and I hope they're substantial. I really do.
Well said, Rosie. I got to fly figuratively and I guess literally coming up in about 3 hours from now. So we'll reconvene on Thursday. Anthony Stewart's going to be in the mix tomorrow from Stadium Swim, and looking forward to what's expected to be a busy week here for the Maple Leafs, man.
I know. It's fun. We can shift our focus back to what we do best and what we are most passionate about. So, yeah, exciting time for Leafs fans. I hope it goes well. I hope it's exciting, and I hope there's some big old news splashes because that stuff is fun.
Yes, sir. For now, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button at the Leafs Nation 401 Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Many thanks to producer Vic as well. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk tomorrow. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much.